Hey Ryan,
Hi, Tim.
how you doing tonight?
I'm okay.
Well, that's good to hear. Despite the fact that we've been talking for the last hour about exactly what we're going to talk about, that's good. It's good to know where we stand on this. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get down to the nitty gritty of this. Like, really, tonight is going to be our first test of our weekly rundown, where we're going to be titling it "News You Can Lose" because you've heard all this on the internet already.
So you really don't need it, just
No,
like our podcast.
absolutely not. This is really just to go ahead and finish out the week. Today is Friday, April 10th. This will be covering news from April 5th to the 10th. Uh, and basically, that's all this really is. You don't need it, but we just really want to do it. We want to give you something because we love you.
Gonna give it to you good.
First, I what I really wanted to start with is this is not actually anything that's covered on our rundown. It's actually insanely hilarious local news, and I kept this out of the rundown just because I really wanted to hear your honest reaction. We're both from different. We both actually are from the same area of Texas. However, we're now about 5 hours apart now.
5.5 or so.
Yeah, we're in West Texas, and if you take the Bible Belt, which is kind of the panhandle part of Texas, where I'm at right now is kind of the Bible Boots, where they absolutely just kick the ever loving shit out of evil here. They just they just curb stomp evil here, and
Anything you just disagree with at all.
absolutely. And a local news website, and I'm doing the finger quote on news, posted a few days ago about how there was outrage about a pink Ouija board. Did you happen to catch this? If you have any.
Yeah, no, I saw that it got shared, and I was reading through a bunch of the comments, and it's very stupid.
It's absolutely the best thing I've seen in a very long time. I mean, not only has Ouija board just become kind of a what is it, Milton Bradley or Mattel product? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was a Mattel. It was sold by Mattel, and it was like $100 for
yeah,
this plastic Ouija board.
pink Ouija board. You know,
Yeah,
to get the lovely young girls into witchcraft, of course.
hail Satan.
Exactly. And some of the first few comments were absolutely golden. And I don't have them in front of me, and I don't think they mind me paraphrasing that they think the Ouija board itself is the pathway to Satanism.
Yeah, I saw that. Other people were talking about how it opens up dark portals, and somebody else was responding to one of them saying, like,
It's
if you can
ridiculous
prove that this
considering that
opens
these are
dark
the
portals and
same.
summons demons, you can go ahead and cash in and get those billions of dollars. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, but just to get into the actual news of what this podcast is really about, is that it seems that E3 season has started kind of a little bit early this year.
I mean, doesn't it normally start in like July?
No, E3 comes around June to July. I think it's mid June. But it usually starts, the hype for it usually starts in about May. You don't really see a whole lot of trailers or sneak peeks or anything like that about games until about mid May or so. And it's super early for all these companies to kind of throw their product out there and just say like, hey, here's this thing.
Right. Well, I mean, it's kind of like Christmas. The hype train starts really early.
God, it's just I kind of want the E3 hype train to just derail. It's E3 every year is more and more disappointing. Less and less companies are getting out there and really even going to E3. I mean, we have Nintendo who's essentially completely backed out of the damn thing. They're doing their direct at the same time of E3, but they've pretty much just walked out of it.
Well, I mean, yeah, now that you can just make an hour long video or so and showcase all of your product and then post it online or stream it live like they do for the direct, why would you spend all that money and have fly people all the way out to E3 and set up booths and all that?
Well, truly, the reason why is because Sony has what, 20 million consoles already sold, 20, 25 million consoles. That's why you spend the money, as opposed to how many does the Wii U have? 8 million, and it's been out
Probably.
twice as long. Yeah, that's why you invest in the floor space. I mean, they have their treehouse and all their demos and stuff. I'm sure they'll have Splatoon out this year, of course. I'm sure it's already released by that time. Isn't it coming out in May?
It should be coming out soon. I've seen people have been playing it for a while now. They've been getting early release stuff.
Yeah, I really hope that game comes soon because between Bloodborne and Witcher, there's not really anything out there on the direct coming out in the next few months. I don't think.
Not that I've noticed. I
Yeah.
mean, except for Axiom Verge.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know how have you ever been into the Deus Ex games?
No, I mean, they were never a thing for me. Like, I think I remember the first game came out quite a while back, didn't it?
Yeah, Deus Ex came out probably when I was 11, 12 years old. It was actually one of my favorite games during my high school era. It was really the first game that it was kind of like the open world aesthetic that just allowed you to do anything. You'd pick something up and it'd give you 15 options to fuck with a box. And who doesn't want to fuck with a box? But yeah, did you happen to see any of the marketing behind this teaser of Deus Ex?
No, I'm looking at an article on Forbes right now that's titled Deus Ex Mankind Divided hopefully signals the end of the remaster era.
I don't think are going to go away anytime soon. I think we have Uncharted remasters coming up, and just anything that studios can get in between releasing an actual real product that people care about. But I do have to say that Square Enix really just wow. I don't know what to say about this. They locked a man inside a box for 3 days, giving giving users who are watching it the option to essentially determine the outcome of what happened just to give you a teaser of a game that was already leaked.
Now, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, okay, so what they did is they had a live feed into a room where a guy was essentially chained up. For a while there, I thought it was just some BDSM porn that I had accidentally clicked on, or intentionally. But yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, of course, yeah. But it was just a man locked inside of a box, and I think about 2 hours in, some guards came in, started roughing him up a little bit, and it gave you the option to essentially either stand your ground or just take it. And users would vote on what you would want him to do. And they did this for roughly 3 days until they finally released the teaser trailer. Despite the fact that I think Game Informer, uh, not intentionally, mind you, I don't think they intentionally leaked it, but information from Game Informer leaked out that Mankind Divided was the next Deus Ex game. And Deus Ex Mankind Divided is following Human Revolution, which I've played several hours of. It's an amazing game. It's just the game has kind of non-inspired bosses because they I believe from what I understand they shoveled the boss encounters off to a third party studio to mess with. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, are you from what little you've seen of this? Are you even remotely interested in this game at all? It's a cyberpunk futurist first person shooter. I know you're not very big on first person shooters, but
No,
any
I mean, I
interest at
like
all?
first person shooters. It's just all of them now are just brown and black and chest high walls and stuff like that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we have the annualized game of several different games out there. Of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 was just recently announced too. Through, of course, a teaser trailer that kind of sends you on an ARG, an alternate what is it, alternate reality game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it asks you to put in GPS coordinates to like kind of give you a little backstory on Black Ops 3. Um, of course, that teaser came out, and I'm sure they'll release a little bit more information over time, leading up, of course, to E3, where they'll either be on Sony's or Microsoft's stage to talk about their next dog physics.
Oh boy, we lost Tim. Thanks, Skype.
Hello,
Tim, come back. No,
hello.
Tim. Okay, let's find out what happened.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
All right, awesome. Our first snafu in the world of making a podcast 5 hours apart from each other.
It works.
Yeah, the last time there was big hype behind a Call of Duty game was, of course, Ghosts, where they introduced their ghost physics for their dog. He could bite, whatever dogs do. I don't know.
Biting is usually what they do. Yeah.
Right? They bite, sleep, eat, and shit. Those are the four core. Those are the four core essences of a dog, I think.
I mean, it's the quintessential dog there.
Exactly. No loving whatsoever. Just none of that. None of that best man's friend shit here.
Filled with hatred and meat.
Do you actually remember the Ghost reveal where they talked about their underwater physics?
I don't. Was that Ghost came out not last year but the year before, right?
Right. Yeah. They propped up their their underwater aquatic physics where their fish would swim in a school. Despite the fact that had already been done in Super Mario 64 10 years prior.
That just feels like it's basically particle physics but with larger objects.
Right, it's just a shinier fish, basically. With some bloom effect, of course.
Yeah.
And honestly, the last Call of Duty game, Advanced Warfare, I actually picked up. And I don't entirely regret picking it up. I only mildly regret picking it up because the premise of the game was super super interesting. It was, of course, one of their futuristic games, but they kind of added in a specialized suit, almost a mecha enclosement.
Like an exoskeleton almost.
Yeah, and you had some interesting jumps, of course. I kind of think it was kind of a payback for Infinity Ward, some of their devs leaving to go form Respawn Entertainment to make Titanfall. But yeah, I've never actually played the Black Ops game, so I can't really talk too much about it. I do, from what my understanding, they took place during the Vietnam era, and
I don't remember. I thought they were more modern, but I
no,
thought that's what Modern Warfare fell into. So
right, yeah, I think the Black Ops games, were their Vietnam era, but I'm not entirely too sure. Neither of us are really big on the Call of Duty games. They're fine games for the crowd that enjoys that game. But I mean, year over year, those games are selling less and less. So maybe it'll cause them, especially because they have 3 different studios working on those games. Maybe it'll cause them, their cycle to actually maybe make some additional improvements that are outside the box of just the standard multiplayer affair with slightly different texturized guns.
I mean, yeah, all it's ever really been for the past few years is just a reskin and a polish.
Yeah,
the only thing they did differently, sort of, on Advanced Warfare with some of the new pack that they released a few weeks ago with the hook shot kind of thing.
I have zero idea about what you're talking about, but you can inform me a little bit because That's not something I really keep up to date about, to be honest.
So they released a new thing for Advanced Warfare that has this. It's kind of like a hook shot that basically creates a whole new way to play the game because
Okay.
you're now flying across the map instead
Right.
of kind of like with Titanfall where you were
Mhm.
kind of moving all over the place.
Right
So
with the
it's more like
jetpack.
that. But I mean, that's not even a super new thing. It's new for Call of Duty, but it's not really innovative and new overall because independent game I was playing a number of years back called Nexuiz was doing the same thing.
Right. I mean, you can also talk about the old games. I don't know if you ever played Tribes, the Tribes
Yeah,
games.
yeah. Tribes Ascend. It's free to play on Steam too.
Oh wow! I had no idea it moved. Man, everything is really moving to free to play, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, and Tribes Ascend looks really, really good.
I might actually have to buckle down and play a little bit of that because I was a huge Tribes 2 Vengeance player way back. I mean, that's a game that we used to LAN together. I mean, we'd meet up and we'd play that all the time. So I might actually have to give that a look.
Yeah, I just miss Unreal Tournament. That would be really nice to have that slightly cartoony, gibletty, running around really fast paced game again. Because now everything's ultra realism, and that's just
Yeah.
it's boring.
Yeah, I mean, these days it's all hyper violent, right? I mean, and what we were talking about on our actual podcast was that's kind of why I'm so excited for Splatoon is that it kind of dials that all back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that'll be really nice to have. I think I'm picking that up.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely picking that up. I really just can't wait for that game. I just I hope everything that I've seen about it so far is the game. Like I don't hope I hope there's not anything that they're keeping out that's just going to actually absolutely kill that multiplayer experience because from what they've shown so far it's looking amazing.
I mean, the only thing they have that the other consoles don't is voice chat.
Yeah, but when you get down to it, do you really want to be called a little bitch by a 12-year-old again?
I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you kind of need to be put in your place by a 12-year-old who clearly has more life experience
I
than
mean,
you.
when I'm really feeling self-loathing, I just need that extra push.
Right. Anytime I'm feeling really good about myself, it's like, yeah, I just jumped on my bike for 30 minutes. I got a good cardio exercise, but man, I really need something to bring me down a peg or two. I'll jump on Xbox Live and play some Call of Duty.
Just feeling way too good about myself right now.
Right? I need to be brought back to a level that I can actually work with.
I'm not used to these feelings.
uh, Talking about self-loathing and sadness, there was an article released by Kotaku recently that's kind of almost a post-mortem, sadly, of a game that was just never released and probably never will be.
Unless somebody picks that up.
They say they're developing it internally now, but for Microsoft speak, that's kind of like we're silently killing it and hopefully nobody noticed.
Oh, yeah, they do that all the time.
They tend to. Okay, so what we're really talking about is there was a studio, and I say that sadly, there was a studio, Dark Side, that was put on the project. Apparently, kind of announced unbeknownst to them that they were working on Phantom Dust, which is an old Xbox game. It's one of the few reasons why I still own my old Xbox, my OG Xbox, as it's being called.
The Xbox
Um,
Fat.
yeah, it was. Looking back, it's a surprisingly great console. They poured a lot of money into it to get some type of leverage in the market, and Phantom Dust was kind of one of their out there titles. It was kind of an action adventure game that depended on a deck playing type thing, kind of like Baiton Katos, I believe is the. I don't know the proper pronunciation, but the GameCube game where it's you have a deck, and based on that deck is your spell pool, and this was back when Xbox Live was really just taking off, And it had a wonderful online experience. It had a pretty good single player experience, and it was just all around a real interesting and real way out there type game that didn't sell real well, but it does still have a super dedicated fan base. I mean, there's not a whole lot of titles on the OG Xbox that still go for 20-40 dollars on eBay or what have you. This is one of those games. And so back at E3, they kind of not even secretly, they openly announced that there was a new Phantom Dust coming. And they released a trailer that had nothing to do with the game that Darkside Games was working on.
They changed everything up on them. They initially wanted it to be kind of like a Hearthstone or League of Legends, like an online competition game, and then they were throwing it out there like, oh, but now we want a 6-hour story mission, a single player story mission with it.
The question I have is, why does that market need to be saturated with more of those type of games? Honestly, I don't.
That's what makes money. Like, if you can put that out there for super cheap or free and then get all the microtransactions from it, it makes a ton of money. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't do it.
But isn't that market already kind of saturated just by the fact of having League of Legends, Dota 2? Those two big behemoths kind of already saturate that market. There's not really a lot of space for anybody else to come in, right? I mean, I don't play those games, but it seems like that market is already kind of on lockdown.
I mean, kind of, but what do I look at here? Oops, sorry. That December. Hold on. I was going back through the article again. Yeah, they tried to get them to extend. Darkside, the developer, tried to get Microsoft to extend their
Cash
thing.
pull.
No, their deadline. They had a deadline in, I think, December, and they tried to get it to extend it another month.
Well, it seems like it kind of all fell apart at the point of requesting just a little bit more money. I mean, in the realm of AAA games, you don't make a AAA game off of $5 million.
No, I mean, that's not even close to enough. I mean, for all the people that wanted, and then later on, they were saying, I guess the guy said in a podcast that they wanted, it was going to be like a 30-hour JRPG.
Yeah, I mean, you had a spokesman for Microsoft go on a podcast and literally say it's a 30-hour JRPG, yet fail to mention that it's a game that's developed by a Western developer.
Yeah, you can't really. I mean, you can say it's JRPG styled or inspired, but I
Yeah.
mean, even then, it's not. I mean, I looked at some gameplay footage that they had, and that's not even close
Yeah.
to any JRPG I've ever seen.
It looks great. Like that footage that was leaked is great. I mean, that's the same style that the old school Phantom Dust was. It looks amazing.
Yeah, no, it looks like it could be fun. It's just everything got so screwed up when, they had the guy come out saying all that stuff, and then the people on the staff for Darkside had no clue he was going to say that, and they don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, like, this article flat out states that the developers, Darkside Studios, came back to Microsoft and said to them that they were asking for things that weren't part of the initial agreement, and, quote, we kept telling them we cannot make this game for the budget you want, which the initial was $5 million. They came back to the table and said, we need like 7-8 million, like 2 or 3 million more to make the game you want. And even at $8 million for a single player campaign that lasts longer than 8 hours, and a multiplayer experience as robust as, your standard MOBA, for $8 million, that is chump change. That is shoestring budget. And that's ridiculous. Asking a studio to make that type of game with just $5 million?
I mean, it's kind of funny that you say it that way, that it's chump change. I mean, you look at it from the perspective of the developer, but if you look at it from the other way, from the company, if they had managed to put out this game for that much money and it was successful and it played well and all of that, then people would be looking at as they did really, really good for the money that they put in.
Right, but Microsoft was funding the build. They probably still make $10 million off of selling Zunes.
I don't know if they still do that way. They don't make Zunes anymore.
What I'm saying is, like, the warehouse is full of Zunes. They probably still make some money off of that. They probably could have thrown Darkside Studios here to finish off a game that seems pretty far in development. I mean, they had an engine. They had their mechanics down. They had a storyboard. They had all the elements of a game. Why would you not throw an extra 2 to 3 million at them just to say, let's finish this game, get another exclusive out there? Because right now we're still in that phase of the new consoles where there's no exclusives out there. I mean, the last exclusive Xbox game was what? Sunset Overdrive? That was last year. Microsoft has no new no new IPs coming out. They have no exclusives until what, like Halo 5? And that's coming October.
And that's not new IP either. It's just
no
expanded on Halo again. 10 years, keep it going.
Yeah, I don't get that. Why would they not throw $2-3 million to get something out as fast as possible? I mean, all their games that they showed off with the announcement of the Xbox, like you have that old game that's developed by the same guys who did Alan Wake. I even forget the name of the game, but yeah, they pushed that back to 2016. So Microsoft right now for this year, unless they announce some really great things at E3 that are like, we're releasing this game now because we have to, there's no exclusive for that console until Halo 5. Now, granted, Sony kind of is in the same boat. They don't have any exclusives really coming out that, are big name titles. This year, Uncharted was pushed back to 2016. So it's just like, by the time these exclusives hit, these consoles will already be 2 years plus on the market, and none of them really have exclusives under their belt except for, of course, the Forza games for Microsoft, racing games, which racing games, tend to sell the same year over year. You don't have new racing games coming to the market. Like Drive Club came in for Sony and it just,
tanked, I think.
Yeah. From what I hear, it's a really competent game now. But yeah, this year, it seems like if Nintendo was able to get Zelda out this year, this would have been the year of Nintendo. Like Splatoon, Zelda, Star Fox, because remember they said Star Fox would be coming out before Zelda. If you had those 3 titles this year, Splatoon, Star Fox, and Zelda, 2015 would be owned by Nintendo.
Well, not to mention all of the what was it? All the DLC that's going to hopefully come out this year from Nintendo.
Right. And I mean, yeah, you have DLC coming out for essentially every game. And that actually makes me remember something that we don't actually have on the rundown, is that Codename Steam just recently got a patch to speed up the cycles, because I heard that was one of the big complaints. I haven't gotten that game yet. I really want to, and I actually probably will run to not any store other than GameStop tomorrow and actually pick up Codename Steam, because I just read this recently, is that on Codename Steam, you've heard about that, haven't you?
No, I'm looking it up.
And with your insanely loud mechanical keyboard clicks.
We'll fix it in post.
No, we won't. No, we won't.
We won't.
Absolutely not. But yeah, Codename Steam is the turn-based RPG tactical game. Kind of like Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics.
What the fuck is this? Abraham Lincoln?
Hell yeah! It's a cool concept, right? Like, from what I understand, the concept is essentially you have like John Henry, the man of mythology.
No,
You
fuck
have
this podcast. I'm going right now.
right, and like the biggest complaint I heard was that the turns were taking too long because they didn't have a way to speed up the turns of the enemy player. The aliens in the game.
So
But
the AI was running too slow.
yeah, there was just no way to speed up their side, to get back into the game. But they recently released a patch that fixed that. And when I heard that, because I hadn't heard about it until recently. Apparently, there's a patch that's been out for a few days to a week or two, and I was like, oh, so now I can go get this game, and that's awesome because that was the only thing kind of turning me off of the game because I'm a huge Fire Emblem guy, huge. Like I can look over at my shelf right now, and I have every game except I think the Fire Emblem for the first Fire Emblem game for the GBA, and that's just way too expensive, and that's not a game you're going to find in the wild. So I
My
don't have
friend
it.
actually might have that.
If he does, I want to go to his house and beat him up and just take it and be like, "This is mine now."
I'll call him and see if he has it.
Yeah, yeah. Just call him, see if he has it. Give me his address, and I'll be there in seconds. But yeah, it's one of the few games I don't have. But yeah, I'm a huge turn-based, RPG guy. Like I love like Jeanne d'Arc, all the games that were released on the PSP that were turn-based. I love Final Fantasy Tactics, all the Fire Emblem games. Just of course, there's the new one coming out, Fire Emblem If, which that's a few weeks back, but it's kind of following the Pokemon tradition of releasing two different games where one side you have these troops and the other side you have these troops.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Codename Steam just
I mean, the patch makes it like 4 times faster.
yeah, like I'm looking at the scores right now. Metacritic, which I trust about as much as I trust a Thief in the Night.
I don't trust any of the
No, I don't.
rating systems. I don't
Yeah,
care.
I absolutely don't trust rating systems, and that's the biggest problem. Is like, I don't have any way to gauge games I like, so I just have to buy them and be like, oh, I like this. Oh, I don't like this. I guess it'll go on my shelf and just stay there. But Codename Steam, like everything I heard, the only thing that received negative marks was that the combat took too long. And now that that is no longer problematic, it seems kind of like it might be a 3DS 5 out of 5 type game. Kind of like a really great game to have. And I'm kind of I'm kind of in a drought for 3DS games right now. Like I'm going back and playing Super Mario 3D Land, trying to get 3 stars and everything. Like that's where I am in 3DS land. And
I still haven't finished the new Pokemon remake, Omega Ruby.
yeah, and it's like there's a drought right now, of course, but that is kind of solved by Xenoblade Chronicles. But the biggest problem with Xenoblade Chronicles, which released today, is only for the new 3DS. It's if you have an old 3DS and Nintendo just basically said, "Hey, go spend another $200 to play this one game."
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't understand what they really had to do. I know the new processor and stuff.
Well,
But
like the only thing that's really changed in the new 3DS is that it has the new processor, which allows it to kind of achieve almost Wii level graphics, but
it's
not
closer.
quite.
It's more approaching GameCube now, really, than it is Wii level.
Fair enough. But to be honest, GameCube and Wii, there's not much separating them. They're both SD consoles, and power wise, the Wii does not have a whole lot on the
No,
GameCube.
not much, but it's a little bit more powerful.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But yeah, the new 3DS, of course, released it's been a month and a half, 2 months. It was released. No, it's been a little longer than that, hasn't it?
It's been a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because I picked one up, and I don't particularly know why, because I didn't get the Zelda bundle, I didn't get the Monster Hunter bundle. I got the boring blue bundle, and because in NOA, Nintendo of America, only released the Giant XL, and I kind of really wanted the smaller one because it had those really awesome SNES colored buttons. No, that the old Super
Yeah,
Famicom
the
had.
green, red, blue, and
Yellow
yellow.
and blue, yeah. And so, I have this new 3DS that's just sitting around, and honestly, I had a copy of Xenoblade Chronicles, which was released in America after Project. I think it was called Project Rain, where a lot of fans, pretty much demanded that they release it on the Wii. Xenoblade Chronicles is a Wii game. I bought a copy of it. And I sold it to somebody on the Penny Arcade forums, like super cheap, just because it's one of those RPGs that just it demands so much of your time that I kind of don't have anymore. And
It's like Final Fantasy.
well, yeah, Final Fantasy 10 years ago when they were actually good, but
It's like real Final Fantasy.
yeah, good Final Fantasy. Like I think the last Final Fantasy game I actually loved was Final Fantasy 9, and that's a PlayStation game. Yeah, it's the last PlayStation game, and then PS2 was Final Fantasy 10.
No,
But
no. 9 came out. No, I'm thinking of 11.
yeah, not 9 was the last PlayStation. 10 was the first PS2 because that's the one with Sin and all that. And I played a little bit of that, but that's the last game I even kind of semi enjoyed. But
And then 11, they did all the online stuff on the PS2
yeah, right,
that
yeah,
didn't
and
work.
right. And Xenoblade Chronicles was a game that I got for the Wii. It was, not mass released in any respect. It's kind of a soft release. I not very many copies. You could only find it at GameStop. It was GameStop exclusive, which I hate going into GameStops in the first place. But that was the only place you could find it. So I picked up a copy. I played the game for about 3 hours, and I remember the best in slot item I had at the time for pants was kind of like these really hot pink like biker shorts, and I put those on. I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't play like the next 6 hours with these hot pink biker shorts. I just can't. And I mean that's JRPG in a nutshell, it seems. But yeah, and I just put the game down. But now that it's mobile, maybe I can go back to it. But it's just even mobile, it's still a game that demands so much of your time. And I'm not refuting the fact that it's a great JRPG. I just honestly think JRPGs have kind of ended. I don't think there's much left that they can do without borrowing from modern Western RPGs.
Well, no, it's just that the thing I see is like the PS Vita is really good for JRPGs and kind of like visual novel stuff because that's where
Absolutely.
what everybody goes to for their JRPG needs is the Vita, and that's what everybody uses in Japan for stuff like that.
Oh yeah, from the podcast I do listen to and everything, it seems like Japan, you can hop on one of their trains and you'll see 30, 40 other people with, a PS Vita. And of course they have Persona 4 Golden, which is regarded as one of the best JRPGs ever created. But it seems like JRPGs as kind of a global market is kind of dried up because even the new Final Fantasy game that's coming out is it seems like it's borrowing heavily from Western RPGs. You have your open world, it's an action RPG. It's no longer, your standard turn based.
Wait, so they turned it into a linear battle system like Tales of Symphonia and all that?
No, I mean it's an open world action RPG that you X X does like this attack. Y the triangle button does your magic attack. Blah blah blah. But it's action RPG. There's no
Well, yeah,
longer.
that's what Symphonia did.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've never played the Tell's game, so yeah, it's an action RPG now. And they kind of, I believe, from my understanding, they kind of went that way with Final Fantasy 12, but it seems like they're borrowing more and more from Western RPGs, kind of like no longer waiting for your turn type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that could just be the case of this one game, though. So I don't know if it's indicative of the genre as a whole.
But speaking of the genre, is that genre does it even still exist?
The JRPG genre?
Yeah, I mean, other than the PS Vita, what is there?
I mean, I'm not too big on JRPG, so I really can't answer that with any certainty.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I mean, that's neither of our area of expertise, or games we particularly play. I mean, honestly, I think I have Lightning Returns on my PS3, but I I can't get into it. I've tried very very hard, but then I look over and I'm like, oh, there's all these other games that don't require all that deep exposition, like Fallout 3. I can just jump right into that, and shoot things.
Yeah, I noticed Fallout, like the Fallout games, really have no exposition. I mean, they're there. It's there if you want it, but you
Right.
could just kind of jump in and start going around and doing stuff. A little
Yeah.
bit. The same thing with the. I think most Bethesda games do that.
Yeah,
With Skyrim and everything.
and see that's another avenue of choice that Western RPGs kind of opened up. It's like you can get this deep story if you want. Like with Fallout 3, it's like you can get into the deep story of like the not necessarily the zombies, but the people who have been eaten away by radiation and stuff. You can get deep into their story without, or you can choose not to. You can just go kill mutants all day, or you can go, grab a Nuka-Cola and do whatever you want. Like, you can't really do that in JRPGs because, in as much as they want to, at least old style, Final Fantasy 15 might change that, but the standard set of JRPG is like there's a linear path, and it kind of gives you the illusion of open choice, but it's not actually.
Yeah, and I just looked up what the top JRPGs coming for 2015 are. They're on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
Persona 5, Disgaea 5, Final Fantasy 15, and Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is definitely not making it this year. I mean, Kingdom Hearts games are actually something I kind of enjoy, but that's definitely not even making it this year. That's going to be pushed back to 2016, if not 2017. And with the way we drink, we might both very well be dead by then.
I mean, I can only hope.
You don't have to see this fate of games anymore.
It's all dead. It's all dead.
There's no more Mega Man games coming out. What does the world come
Fuck
to?
me, dude. I need a new Mega Man game.
Yeah, that's a series that's dead, isn't it?
No, it's comatose. We're gonna bring him back.
But I mean, at least we get it in games that come through PS4 Spring Fever, like Axiom Verge. I mean, at least we get
No,
games
that's
like
Metroid. I get my Metroid fix from Axiom Verge. And
right,
Castlevania, because that's dead too.
but you still kind of get the Mega Man feel. I mean, they're all roughly action platformers where you jump, you shoot, you jump, you shoot.
I mean, it's hard like Mega Man 3 is.
Yeah, right. Well, that's just because you choose the hard setting.
That's because it's fun.
No, it's not.
It's very fun.
But
All the
yeah,
broken controllers.
I mean, speaking about that, PlayStation right now has their Spring Fever going on, and on Tuesday they released Bastion for the PS4, which is oddly enough the first time it's ever been on a Sony console, despite the fact that you can get that game in browser and Chrome. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm sure there was some weird contract stuff that they couldn't get it onto the PlayStation for some amount of time.
Yeah, like I imagine it has something to do with exclusives because I think Braid back then was even the same way, and because that was like one of those Xbox summer of indie games back in like 2012, like Limbo was in 2010 or whatever. But
Limbo's
yeah,
good too.
yeah, oh yeah, Limbo's great. Braid I never got too much into, but I do love the design aesthetic. I love the time manipulation.
The
It's
mechanics
just
are really cool.
yeah, it's just the art style kind of put me off a little bit.
Mm, yeah, I can feel that.
It felt kind of like it was like NBA Jam, like back on the SNES Genesis days where you'd put in the big head code, and it was just like the aesthetics were a little off, but the mechanics were great. And he actually has a new game coming out called The Witness. I think that's actually slated for this year, but that's kind of beside the point. But yeah, Sony has this thing, Spring Fever, where they're releasing probably some of the best games that are on uh, current gen consoles. I mean, you've got Axiom Verge, Helldivers, Hotline Miami 2, a throwback with Metal Slug 3. You got Bastion coming up, and it has Bloodborne, of course. Like, this is clearly, like, this year is already Sony's year. I don't know how Microsoft does anything about that. Like, they just look at it and was like, well, fuck.
Well, I mean, they got Halo coming out, and that'll just everybody will eat that up.
At the end of the year,
The hype train, the hype train is rolling.
can the
They're
hype
already
train
starting it.
can the hype train really go that long?
No, the hype train's derailing in like an hour.
in a fiery burst of happy flame.
I don't know if it's gonna be that happy.
Yeah, it's probably not. And speaking of super unhappy, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin came out for next gen or current gen consoles.
On
And
everything.
yeah, on old gen, on PC,
On iOS, on the N-Gage, on a toaster,
on the Ouya.
on the Ouya.
Yeah, so what Scholar of the First Sin is it's Dark Souls 2 with all the expansions, which essentially by itself cost $30. Plus, they've kind of remapped where enemies show up in Dark Souls 2. Now, I've put about I don't even want to look it up. I haven't
45.
Is that how much I've put into it?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah, probably, because I think original Dark Souls, I put about 50 or 60. I think Dark Souls 2, I put 30, 40. And on Bloodborne, I'm already up at about 20 hours, so most of that being grinding because I'm a terrible player. But yeah, Dark Souls 2 is just kind of their throwout, kind of like they did with the original Dark Souls with the expansions thrown on. Which their expansions, From Software's expansions, are great. They're insanely harder. They're kind of sequestered off to where you don't even know where to really start it. So you're kind of replaying the game all over again. But with Scholar of the First Sin, it's them kind of throwing it back to consoles with 60 frames per second, with the additional content. And they've remapped where enemies are to make it kind of a little more flow-lined experience. Of course, make it harder because everybody complained about Dark Souls 2, how hard it was. Well, lack of hardness, despite the fact that it was still hard. But that the fans of that type of game are fans of that type of game. Generally they're old NES SNES fans who love games like Back to the Future where you never finish like the second level. They love Battletoads, games that you just never fucking finish ever.
I mean, most of it is just, it seems like it's just artificial length to the game.
It is. From Software is a studio that never had really a big hit. I mean, they sold a decent amount on the original Xbox. They did like Otogi 2, which are great games, which we actually saw when I was there, when we went a little video game hunting. They're great games, but From Software hasn't really had a big hit until the Dark Souls games, and they realized that they had a model to follow. So, I mean, yeah, there is a lot of artificial length attached to it, but it's a game that it's weird to say this about a video game, but it demands your respect, I guess. Like, it wants its money, and it's gonna get it.
I mean, I guess, but that's, I don't know. Like, it's like the same game over and over again now with the Dark Souls games and the Bloodborne coming out now. It's just everything. They're trying to make everything hard just to increase like the value of the game. So people play it and say, "Oh my god, this is the hardest game ever," and then it goes all over the place.
But I mean, isn't that what people are kind of begging for right now? Kind of like a return to the old days where a game has replay value outside of just jumping on multiplayer like Call of Duty. I mean, isn't that kind of what the market's asking for as a whole? Is like games that have 100 hours where you can throw it in single player. And of course, in these games there is multiplayer where people invade your worlds. There is a little bit of multiplayer aspect to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not saying it's a terrible thing. I'm just saying. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, artificial lengthening of games isn't necessarily bad if the lengthening of the game is still fun, right?
Yeah, no, if it's still fun, that's fine. Like,
And it's clear that these games have found their market, and good for them, because games kind of do need this like return to being hard.
yeah, they need something else. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily make all the games hard again so they last longer.
Right.
I really couldn't pinpoint it if you asked me to. I think we just need more quality games instead of here's something we slapped together. It looks really pretty, but we forgot how to do AI and stuff.
Right, or another remake that they're like, well, we slightly upgraded the textures here. Thanks for the $60.
Yeah, I mean, with the Wind Waker remake, they upgraded the textures, of course, but they
They
also
re
gave you a new sail.
Well, not only that, they remade that game. I mean, they took out the annoying parts of that game, the sailing and not knowing where to
Yes.
go. Like, they took out the annoying parts. I mean, not only did they, kind of increase the textures, they increased the textures. I mean, they took that game from an SD game to a legit HD quality, big AAA title. Like,
Yeah,
it,
no, it
it
looks really good.
yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful game. I still go back to that game, and I just like, it's kind of like the game I want to have as like a screensaver, to where I walk into my house and like everything just turns on and that game just turns on, and I just look at it and the music plays and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's why I love video games."
Yeah, I mean, I gave it shit for a long time for the art style, and it took me about 8 or 10 years before I was able to look at it and be like, that's cool.
Yeah, see, that's weird. Is like I was one of the few proponents of that game when it initially came out. People didn't like the cell shading. They thought it was, a baby game, and I'm just like, that is a gorgeous game. That game will hold up for 30 years.
Yeah, I just didn't. It didn't appeal to me, especially considering at the same time that that came out, the previous game had been Ocarina of Time,
Right.
and that was a lot more
Wait, 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 wait. You're forgetting Majora's Mask.
that I didn't play, that I
Yeah,
haven't played.
that's really your fault.
It is. I was poor. I am
Man,
poor.
okay. Next time I'm down in that area, I'm gonna have to hand you off my Majora's Mask 3DS copy, because Majora's Mask is one of my top three Zelda games.
Yeah, if I don't pick it up anytime soon, I guess before I get up there in May, then I'll have to borrow it.
Oh, that is the most contentious Zelda title other than the CDI game. Just like its fans are rabid about how great it is, and the people who don't like it are rabid about how much they don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of I don't know if that's the most contentious outside of the CDI games, but
I don't know what would be more contentious. Like every other game, I mean, Twilight Princess, everybody is like kind of like, most people are at least mediocre to good about that game. Skyward Sword, I mean, most people are either it's a 10 or a 5, but Majora's Mask is one of those games where people are either it's a 10 or it's a 0.
I would have put it. I mean, not having played it, but knowing a little bit about it, I think I would have put it at a 7 at least.
I I mean
It's
it
clearly
like,
a solid game.
yeah, it's solid, and it has concepts and mechanics in that game that just aren't even used in any games whatsoever. I mean, it has a gaming cycle. You have X amount of time to do this, or you're done. You're done, son. One and done.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
is a thing, and then the mask system is really cool.
Oh, the math system, especially, of course, you were talking about this a few weeks ago. Of course, how everybody's all up on Deity Link,
Yeah, I don't
in
understand
Smash.
why. It's like, why would you play? It's either Deity Link or Dark Link that everybody
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah, Dark Link seems like a very uninspired modeling in Smash Bros.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like eight. What is it? Eight or it's over eight character models now for
Yeah.
everything on the Wii U. I think.
Yeah. Um, so, since we are on the topic of Nintendo, I do want to talk a little bit about affordable space adventures. Have you seen
Oh, it
any?
looks so cool.
Oh, this is a game we have to play when you're back down here because it's a two-player game. I mean,
When does it drop? Oh my
it's
god, did
our
it drop this week?
yeah, yeah.
Holy shit! Yes,
It came out today or yesterday. But yeah, I was watching a few of those videos, and man, is that a game?
it's so
It's
polished.
of course it has that indie look to it, of course.
I mean,
Um,
it's a side scroll. It's side scrolly, so
yeah,
that's what
and
happens.
I don't I forget the name of the movie, but uh, let me look it up real quick.
Which movie?
Um, Inner Space. It was a movie from the 80s, right? Where you're this tiny little ship and like you get sucked into like this person's body and you have to go through their bloodstream and all this. And that's what that game kind of reminds me of is like that 80s movie Inner Space where you have to like traverse through the bloodstream essentially. And that's what that game kind of looks like. Is like you have to have two players. You have one person on the main screen. You have one person on the gamepad.
Oh, does it
And
have to be two players?
from my understanding, it looks like you kind of do. Um,
That's an interesting thing to go about because not everybody has somebody they can play with.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm assuming it's not completely two player.
I mean, I'm assuming there is a one player mode, but it just seems like a much more amazing game if you have two people. One on the gamepad, one on the main TV.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's gonna be a really good time.
Yeah, like when you're down here, I think we have to get down on some of that and maybe do a let's play on that because today I just got my El Gato in.
Oh, did you order that?
Yeah, I decided I might as well do that. I right now I'm playing through on the Wii U. I'm playing Batman Origins. I
Origins?
Origins,
All right.
Origami. But yeah, I've never played the Batman games really ever.
They're really good.
Yeah, so I've essentially started Batman Origins and Origins, however you'd like to say it.
Organs. Batman organs.
Tomato, fuck you.
Tomato, everybody's dead.
But yeah, like I recently got that in. I'm thinking of throwing a few playthroughs of Origins and Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, in a completely drunken manner, of course.
Let me tell you this. Don't play them on hard mode.
Oh no, I don't play games on hard mode. I don't
They're
have time. I don't
they're
have time for that.
stupid hard. The game's hard as hell on normal. I had a friend staying with me for a few weeks when I first got the Arkham Asylum game, and I was
Yeah.
like, should I start it on hard? And he's like, no, just start it on easy. It's hard. It's so hard.
Well, like when you start on easy, you just kind of have to mash A in a sequential order. It's kind of like Guitar Hero for Batman.
Yeah, yeah. Everything on easy and normal for Guitar Hero and every other game is just super simple. And then you bump up the difficulty even a little bit, and it just destroys you. Like
Right.
everything's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I'm playing through those games right now to get ready for the new Batman Arkham Knight game, which looks amazing. Like it might be the game that just really brings in this new age of graphics because the fidelity, the aesthetics, the quality of those graphics is just I think beyond anything else out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a good time.
I'm hoping. But yeah, I mean that kind of runs the gamut of the new releases of this week. You have anything to add to really this podcast that we were hoping to be really short, but again turned into a really long hour and a half segment?
It's only like an hour.
I'm showing an hour and 35 minutes.
That's on Skype.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, we've been talking before that for a bit.
Unless I missed a half hour of content.
Well, no, that's actually a really healthy number, under an hour ish.
We're above, but it'll
Yeah.
work just fine.
Yeah, I guess this is a good time to really talk about like the channel as a whole. Um, like I said, I just got the Elgato. What we're doing right now is we're really just hoping to, we're gonna have this news segment, which is called "News You Can Lose," because of course you can just get rid of it. And we have our standard podcast for the week where we're going to pick random topics that we both, I guess, kind of enjoy talking about on some level. It's going to be a mix between new topics, old topics, uh, really just getting down on that. And we're really hoping to do once every, week or two, we're going to do a Steam game, and then we're going to kind of do a retro game.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is going to be better for now. At least while school's rolling on.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's really just what we want to do. We kind of just want to sit here and talk forever about old things. Um, in this room right now, I have so many arcade sticks, and I really want to take all this stuff take all this stuff up to you, or you come down and us play some Street Fighter Alpha 3, some Marvel vs. Capcom, some actual fighting games, and see who's the actual champion, because Smash Bros. Doesn't matter.
I think it does a little bit more.
Matters none. It matters who wins in Street Fighter Alpha 3 for the Dreamcast.
For the Dreamcast, oh no.
The greatest console of all time.
It's going to be a problem.
No, it's not. You're going to look at it and be like, oh, this is the greatest console of all time.
Then we could finally play that other game we were trying to play when the Retron crapped out.
Yeah, that was a very sad night. I think I almost shed a tear or two.
You probably did.
I probably went to the bathroom and I was like, I've gotta go to the bathroom and just be by myself for a minute or two.
We gotta let this out now.
Yeah. But yeah, we're really hoping to do some Steam games. The cheaper the better, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say right now we are not gonna do graphic novels because both of us have zero interest in graphic novels.
I might do one. If we're
What?
gonna do like a let's play of it and do like
What?
funny voices over it, I
Right?
could get down on some of that because the
Graphic-
dialogue is always really shitty.
It just seems like Japan has really got that on lockdown. It seems like they've been making graphic novels for the past 5 years without anybody noticing.
And they're like, guess what? There's a million games for graphic novels out now.
There are.
Enjoy.
And of course, you have all the Telltale games that are, of course, out there now, which I do enjoy on some level, but it's really hard for me to sit down and play a Telltale game, no, realizing that it's essentially just a book with their kind of boring engine attached to it.
I like to see it as just a TV show that I'm slightly interacting with.
Right. Yeah. It's just I don't know. They it's not that they can't hold my attention. It's not that I don't like a good story. It's just I don't like the lack of interaction with it. It puts the player at an almost negative level of interaction with the game.
I mean, it is. That's basically what it is.
Well, those Telltale games every once in a while at least let you press A or some shit.
Oh, the Telltale games. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're like crawl for this weapon so you can shoot a zombie.
Yeah, no, that part I get. I thought we were still talking about Telltale.
Yeah. No, it's just like, it's like I could do that, or I could just go watch the TV show, or I could just go read the comic book and not have to press A.
Is there a comic book for Wolf's the Wolf? What is it?
Well, the Wolf Among Us is actually based off of the comic series. What is the name of that? It's I actually read it for a little bit. God damn it! You're gonna have to actually make me search for this. I think it's called. Uh,
I have no idea.
I know that there's a comic. Oh, Fables. Yeah, it's based off of Fables, which is a comic series. Bill Willingham, I think. I read it for a little bit. It's really great. Like, it takes all the aspects of like mythology,
Kind
and
of like
kind of just
the older horror genres.
yeah, it's kind of like all the Grimm's fairy tales kind of thrown into a mix, and they all kind of live in modern suburbia. And I read it for a little bit. It was really great. It's one of the few comic books I actually actively read for a little bit because other than let's see, The Walking Dead and the new Captain America, I don't really read many comic books out these days. I tend to choose writers over the content, and I just kind of drift where the writers are as opposed to the actual content, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a lot easier to stick with who you know.
Yeah. And getting back to the thing we were talking about, the content that's coming up for us. What were we, what did we settle on? We settled on Risk of Rain, right, for our Steam game of the week.
Probably it's gonna be pretty ragey.
Yeah, yeah, that is a rage quit game.
I'm still looking forward to Axiom Verge and Affordable
Yeah,
Space Adventures.
you know, if somehow we have some listeners who want to donate some money, maybe we can buy you a PS4 for Axiom Verge because it's not coming out for the PC for what, a few months.
I thought it was a month.
Well, I'm right in front of a computer. Let's just do this search. Axiom Verge PC. I'm sure this is great content for people who are actually still with us.
Nobody's with us to begin with.
Yeah, that's okay. We're doing this really for us, aren't we?
Mostly.
Yeah.
I'm here
Yeah.
for that sweet cash.
That's just going to roll in on our 30th listener and our second subscriber.
We have 2 subscribers now?
No, I'm saying it'll roll in when we get that second subscriber.
Woo! 1 subscriber!
Going to the moon, Alice. Straight to the moon.
That's just a euphemism for beating your wife.
Yeah, it literally is, which is surprising because one of the few people who did listen to our podcast all the way through said that my accent is endearing. So whatever. If you're still
I don't know
listening,
what that means.
I think it means fuck you, Nintendo.
Yeah, alright.